As geopolitical issues become part of boardroom conversations, a deeper understanding of China's economic landscape is no longer optional. China in the Changing Geoeconomic Landscape is a 4-week fully virtual course by Takshashila Institution on how China is reshaping trade, finance, and global power. You'll unpack China's rise, its economic model, de risking, trade as strategy, and Beijing's push to reform the global financial order. Applications close on 20th January 2026. Apply now.
Welcome to All Things Policy, a daily podcast by the Takshashila Institution. We are a bunch of policy nerds based in Bengaluru, and we like bringing fresh perspectives to Indian affairs and Indian perspectives to global affairs. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us for today's chat.
Hello, and in fact, namaskara from my side, and welcome to another episode of All Things Policy. And today I have with me my colleague Dr. Nithiyanandam. He is the professor and head of the Geospatial Research Program at Takshashila Institution. And I'm your host for today, Sowmya Prabhakar, CEO of Takshashila. So I think always Nitya and I are in this conversation about how geospatial data is not leveraged enough. And that's been our common conversation when we think about urban governance as well. But here's the bigger picture of why India needs a unified geospatial data portal ecosystem. That's the conversation we are having today. So when we drive to work, when we check traffic updates on phone, or even simply order food, right? Even thinking about going for a walk with our smart watches, we are generating this kind of data. And not just any data, but particularly we are looking at geospatial data here. So all that data that's captured exactly tells where we have been and when we were there and how did we actually move around in that space too, right? So even a Strava gives that kind of information, our fitness apps and other things. So what's interesting is we're actually constantly engaging with geospatial data without even realizing it, right, Nitya? As much as we're oblivious to it, that's what's happening in the background. But sometimes I think the same data is returned to us as service, right? Like people will kind of give traffic updates saying there's some blockage or roadblocks or suggestions to take different tracks. But what we're going to look at today is the macro question. What happens with all this data that's being collated? And then most importantly, are we using it well enough? So on this note, Nitya, it'll be great for you to kind of get started with telling us how geospatial data, although it's everywhere, give us a little more context on how it should be leveraged. Yeah.
Sure. I'll do that, Somya. First of all, thank you so much for having me on this conversation. It's an important topic where most of the time the geospatial community is left out, and glad that we are looking at it for the welfare of this community at large. So, first of all, whenever we call something like a geospatial data, so people may wonder, what is this? Is it a satellite image, or is it a GPS data, or is it something what they can, draw a small, line on top of a satellite data in Google Earth or any other platform? So because today there are plenty of platform allow used to create a spatial data. So geospatial data means any data set which has, let's say, a latitude and longitude associated with it. Now, latitude and longitude is just an example. So any form of spatial reference which are associated to it is called geospatial data. For say in future, we're going to have something called DigiPin, where 10-digit alphanumeric code is going to be associated with any land parcel, a small land parcel. That is again a geospatial data. We are knowingly or unknowingly generating this with our everyday activity. Our phones are doing it, our cars are collecting it, and all the gadgets that we use mostly collecting this data these days. But the question is how it is being used further and who is using it. So, for example, if the data sets are collected by cars and mobile phones, the respective companies are leveraging it. Of course, a lot of things have changed in last few years. where a lot of concerns were being asked. Otherwise, I used to say to people, if you set it up your phone, let's say if you are setting your new Android phone,
Yeah.
if you're not allowing access to your location, you will not able to use your phone.
Yes.
Uh, but then today we have options to use it. But then as a user, one needs to be really careful in saying whether a particular application requires a location information or not. So that
Hmm.
is the first thing we all need to do.
Hmm.
But when these data sets are collected, right, at times it is used uh, for their own analytics, and thereafter it is returned to us as a product. As you pointed out in the introduction, like
Yeah.
when we are traveling on road,
Hmm.
we are generating data. So
Yes.
the speed in which our cars are, moving around on a particular road, it gives an indication to the company who runs this application whether the road is free or it has any blockage. Nobody is seeing from space.
Hmm.
But the movement of multiple vehicles on this road gives
Hmm.
them a clear picture whether the road is blocked or whether the road is free for the movement. Now, using that, it again gives you in a color of red, yeah,
Hmm.
orange or green at times where you can freely move around. This is
Hmm.
something where you get as a product by giving information to the company, right?
Hmm.
So this is one example where we are giving input to the whole system, and not just our data, the data set from other people comes back to us as a product, right?
Yeah.
This is one form of utilizing geospatial data, which comes
Hmm.
out in it's not just in the portal, but then Google Maps, you can still call it as a portal where you can see, the data set in a different form than it was
Yeah.
originally collected.
Right.
Likewise, the data set exists every places. These are the small IoT devices.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever people worries about security,
Yeah.
and let's say whether it is a car which is,
Hmm. Hmm.
people are trying to find its location or a mobile phone itself, the location information is being shared. In that way,
Hmm.
many devices, many small sensors collects the location information
Hmm.
and tags it with the other form of data. It can be a navigation data, it can be an environmental data, it
Yeah.
can be any form of data that has
Hmm.
geospatial tag these days.
Hmm.
So this
Hmm.
is a concept where what does geospatial data means. And what I mean by portals are
Hmm.
there while these data sets are collected, right? There are variety of data sets in different formats. Some are collected by the application and used by the respective companies, but some other forms of data, let's say satellite data sets
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
pollution information
Hmm.
or let's say flood information, all
Hmm.
these were collected by government agencies, and some private agencies do collect meteorological data sets. So those were again put out in open domain or
Hmm.
in domains with the commercial licenses.
Hmm.
So those are for public disclosure or for researchers to make use of it.
Okay. Okay.
So those are called data portals.
Hmm. Hmm.
The famous data portals that community largely engage with is, let's say, USGS portal, where
Hmm.
United States Geological Survey puts out data for
Hmm.
larger satellite data sets collect from US and other parts of the world.
Hmm.
In case of India, it is Bhunidhi, Bhuvan.
Hmm.
ISRO offers a variety of data sets. Not just ISRO in India, many other organizations also offer different variety of data sets. These are the data sets that put out for people to directly consume, visualize, and see what they wanted to infer out of it. And to an extent, people can also download and make use of it. That is an intention of this portals. It's largely to provide the data, largely to provide the processed and raw data as well. So both are the components of this portals.
Yeah, but I see a fundamental problem with this, Nitya. I think that the fragmentation of this geospatial portals, right, per se, like say if I'm a policymaker or I'm into research or I need this kind of information today, how do you even discover it and how do you know that this is like a valuable data set to rely on our decision making?
So, so let's take an example from an issue which is burning, the Delhi's air pollution, right?
Hmm.
So, if I'm an interdisciplinary researcher and I'm interested in looking out a true source for this problem. And I really wanted to give a policy suggestion where it can be resolved, at a time forever. So for that, one needs to have a comprehensive data because we need data driven or like science driven policy making, right? In this case, one needs to know whether pollutants emerge, how it spreads, what are the geomorphological condition, and what are the agricultural practices happens in and around, and what is the density of population exists on the surface, and many other data sets, right? Like including radiation from sun and including the movement of vehicles to distinguish whether it is a stubble burning pollution or it is due to the local anthropogenic pollution within the city. For making a concrete decision, right, the variety of data sets needed. But if one particular data is available with Indian Meteorological Division about the weather and related stuff, rainfall stuff, and if another set of data sets about pollution is available with the Pollution Control Board, if another set of data about the demographics is available with another organization, and for getting a boundary if you are moving around to a different organization. So if you are moving to 10 different places, the data sets again not offered in a unified format, right? Though you can commonly find geospatial data sets in a formal called shapefile format, but then the metadata are not standard. Time period in which or time interval in which the data sets available are not uniform.
Okay.
And there are standards associated with the data, not just the format standards. If the standards are not unified, how do you overlay and make a decision, right? To get a complete picture, we basically need at least a thematic level unified portals. Let's say if there is a portal for atmospheric research, where all the areas associated with it, whether it is pollution, whether it is population who are exposed to it, whether it is the local activities, all this should come from various sources, but it is available for people in one dashboard and not just something they can visualize it, they can view it and reshare it in Twitter.
Yeah.
There should be an option for them to download at their level. Like, let's say a researcher who wants to look into it, the data set should be available in original form so that he or she can make use of it. Otherwise, it will be more like a black box. People look into the
Yeah.
data, visualize the data. We feel, for example, the NASA's forms data, most of us used to represent the stubble burning thing. It do comes with this limitation, which is clearly mentioned in NASA's portal. But people who readily consumes it in social media, consumes it as a data without looking at the false positives associated with it. Right? In that way, the more fire inputs are, overestimated and so on. So this is what happens when we just offer visualization, services instead of offering a comprehensive service where the researcher can download it, a layman can view it, and
Yeah.
anybody else who want to integrate and do a business out of it.
Yeah.
APIs
Yeah.
need to be provided from there so that entrepreneur can make business solution out of it.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that's what
No,
missing.
totally valid, right? Nitya, if I am one of those who's in the interest of doing policy making, right? I just need
Right.
more for quick summary of decision making, right? Some visual outputs will help. But if you look at, like you said, bazaar side of it, right? If you look at the Samaj Sarkar Bazaar, the markets need processed data to build whatever applications or some business out of it. But a researcher like you will look at raw data sets and you will do your own analysis on it. So at
Right.
this point, do you think beyond visualization we have just being a little more scattered and not really consolidated much?
We can't say this at this moment. Let me tell you that first we should acknowledge we have realized its importance for the
Hmm.
portals and
Hmm.
fundings are coming up. And it is also envisaged in National Geospatial Policy 3 years ago that we should have a unified geospatial portal. And we are not doing bad in this case. We are doing reasonably okay because let's say 5 years before, we are not seeing data sets from variety of agencies and so on. But today we are seeing the data sets coming out from variety of agencies, and they are putting out because there's a larger push from the top level of administration in the government, which suggests the data sets, whatever data sets you're putting out, that should have a geospatial component, which largely brings transparency in the process. Because when the location is tagged, it brings transparency in many ways. And that is what a lot of programs include PM Gati Shakti and all, collects whatever infrastructure projects, whatever projects you do, give the geospatial component. Now, but the worrisome part is it's scattered. It is not moving towards something called a unified geospatial portal, where an efforts are taken by a few people in the past, and the data sets collected from various local bodies, various state agencies were brought down in one platform, but largely the vector data sets. Vector means not the satellite imagery kind of thing. Most of the point line and polygons of the world features are brought out into platform. um, Center for Data Good from Indian Institute of Science has did a great job in bringing out that, but it is to an extent what they can able to do. And now we have seen announcement that private company MapMy India is going to build a unified geospatial portal for Government of India. Now these are all in place, but what we really missed is the vision that we had in 2022, and by 2025, we should have had this unified geospatial portal. So, which clearly says there is a lag. So, the lag is something we need to look at, because this is 2025 is indeed, Sowmya, is an important year in geospatial policy spectrum, because 2022, when it was released, 2025 had specific tangible timeline. 2025 has specific tangible targets that's supposed to be achieved. But we are making progress, but we are unable to achieve those progress due to some reasons. Perhaps maybe the challenges in moving around in terms of administrative processes, something like that is troubling this. We are slow, but we should not get into the trap of what has happened in other countries. Like, people also offered so much of scattered data, but it took them a decade to realize, like, we need to have unified geospatial portal. Then they are converging now. But we had a good thought process in the beginning itself. We need to have unified geospatial portal as a country. But now, when we are again offering in a scattered way in different portals, I'm sure it will not be much of useful. And 10 years later, it will fail down, and then we will talk about the unified geospatial portals again. So let's hope things will converge and comes as unified geospatial portal through this effort.
Interesting. So I see the promise in this conversation, Nitya, that we've at least started off in the direction of consolidating, right? But looks like the missing link is mostly in the context of building more awareness, people having access to it, and just discoverability of it, right?
That is also important. The discoverability, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So, just the larger idea of this, right? And the vision, what you were talking about, as much as 2025 was like a good year, I would say, at least from our conversation, that people have started realizing the importance of geospatial data. But give us a good sense of where we are heading, given that this episode is more in the 2026 kind of a context. Let's start on a note that there's a larger vision, and perhaps give us a little more insight into what to expect.
See, what we need is, like, we should not attempt to create, because we are not evolved, in a technical stage. If I say, if I put an example, NASA has several portals, several groups, subgroups, which are focusing on different aspects. And then today they are in a position to bring one unified portal where a lot of thematic areas exist. So what we should at least have in 2026, at the end of 2026, is to have unified thematic level portals. Let's not look for one single platform where all the data sets available for all kind of activities. At
Mm,
least let us have thematic level platforms.
mm,
One can
mm.
look at atmospheric research. One can look at land governance. One can look at, the eco diversities and especially the environmental related challenges on ecosystems.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that is what we need to have first. And
Mm,
perhaps based on the learnings of that, the usage of that, we should go for the comprehensive unified portals. But I think we are still in a mood of creating a comprehensive portal. For me, it's a big jump.
okay.
My suggestion in this case would be like, let's build the thematic level layers, where that itself I see as a challenging task within the country,
Mm,
where our data sets from all the relevant sources are not available readily. And definitely, as you said, something very important one, the promotion of this data sets and its availability is also needed,
right.
because not everyone is aware that various kinds of data sets are available in government platforms.
Mm,
So that
mm,
needs to be informed to people. Entrepreneurs need to build solutions out of it, to make a viable commercial option where people can directly rely on. And
mm,
at the same time, there need to be a consistent monitoring on government bodies also to provide data in a particular standard. So
mm,
once this portal comes in, there should
mm,
not be any discontinuity.
mm,
There's a
mm.
necessity to provide the information continuously from there on.
Right.
So the government institution which collects the data should be
Mm,
ensured to provide the data in good form. And there's a new thing coming up. I'm quite excited to see in 2026, Soumya, that is the Geo AI coming up. So how
okay.
we use geospatial and AI together within
Mm,
Indian and whether the data sets on these platforms can be utilized better with the help of AI or not is
mm.
something where we need to relook at it after a year, at the end of 2026, Soumya.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So that's a good start for us. I'm so happy, Nitya, that, at least in the geospatial context, we see a lot of promise. And I think if we kind of, get this right, we're going to have geospatial portal ecosystems that can leverage well, like I said, for researchers to kind of generate more evidence based research work, or entrepreneurs to innovate, or even citizens to meaningfully engage with the geospatial information, right? Like you said, the
True,
data is
true.
already there, the technology exists, and what we need is to coordinate and probably have a shared vision, right?
Yeah.
That's perhaps the crucial thing for us to work on.
Yeah, just one thing, Soumya. The policymakers are interested to make the change. Probably we need to have a larger deliberation with people, interaction with people, and to understand the good practices, which have exist. And in fact, Soumya, we have two documents. One is our, the policy doc, which talks about the status of geospatial portals
Mm,
in India, where we comprehensively looked at multiple things, and another book chapter, which is published in Routledge on an international publication, which talks about geospatial policy at large, where the portal's challenges and its opportunities are also looked at. I see, Soumya, if we do this portal thing well, it does
mhm,
not just help us to grow. It's not just Indian community to grow. There's a
mm.
huge vacuum exists now because of larger funding cuts to NASA's program on Earth observation,
Yeah.
and there are challenges that the portals exist currently offering the data sets from US space
Mm,
perhaps may slow down a bit. And
mm.
the other player is possibly European Space Agency, who offers through a platform, but that is again not comprehensive in today's context. Yes, it is coming up quite well in last few years compared to NASA. It's
Mm.
slightly down, but India can emerge as a third player, perhaps an
Yeah.
alternative player if any of the funding challenges arise there,
Mm,
because
mhm,
Indian satellite goes around, across the globe.
mm,
So if anybody is interested to work on Indian data sets, which
mm.
covers Indian region, they can leverage it. Or if they want to use the Indian resource, which flies over their region and it collects information about the other parts of the world, then that will also be possible once we have a better portal which is accessible to all, with
Yeah.
standard metadata sets and with good information. So this
Yeah.
is what we should leverage, the geopolitics situation that emerges, and we can be in a better position once we could able to leverage it in a better way. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Nitya, for your inputs. I think it gave us a lot of insights on where we are and where we are heading towards. So thanks for joining me on this episode. And for the listeners, also our GCPP program, our flagship program, the Graduate Certificate Public Policy, the application cycle is open. So if you're interested, do sign up. And wishing you all very happy 2026 from Takshashila Institution. Thanks so much, Nitya.
Thank you, Sowmya.
If you liked our show, dive into Takshashila's research on technology, strategy, and economic affairs. Check us out at our Twitter handle @TakshashilaINST or our website takshashila.org.in.